Well, I don't know what is greatest challenge when you are working, but writing any song or anything and trying to do your work with certain level of competence is a challenge. But yes, I remember one little story. I was doing a film with Mr. Ashutosh Gowarikar, Swades, and he was shooting somewhere near Mahabaleshwar in a village, and he sent me a SOS and come immediately. So I thought I couldn't understand what the problem. Anyway, I flew to Pune, and then their production car took me to Vai. The village name is Vai. It's a very old village, and Nana Saab's Haveli uh, is also there, which tourists come and see that and so on. So that is where he was shooting. And I went the location. I mean, there was actors, all everybody, and I sat there talking to them. And he told me casually that I have to write a song immediately because Rahman, who is the music director, is going away to England for almost 3 months because he's giving music in some play. So I said, okay, that's not a problem. I generally take an hour or at the most 2 hours to write a song. So after the pack up, we went back to the hotel, and the director, Mr. Ashutosh Gowarikar, after bathing and looking very fresh, came to my room, all smiles, and he said that tomorrow Rahman is coming. We have turned one suite into a recording theatre, and he will shoot it, record it there, because day after tomorrow he is going away. I said, okay, so give me do you have the tune? As I hope you know that most of the songs are written to the tune for the situation. So he said, yes, this is the tune. He gave me a cassette. At that time, we used to take the music on cassettes and a cassette player. And I said, okay, but what's the situation? He said, the situation is very simple. There is a Ram Leela going on in the village, and Sita ji is in Ashok Vatika, and Raman comes and asks her that, what have you seen in Ram that you are so enamored by him and you worship him the way you do? What's so special about him? And she answers, and he counters. He said, Shutosh Gowarikar, I mean, do you know what you're saying? You should have told me. It's a very sensitive topic. So I should have brought Ramcharitmanas or other books or references that how I can write and what is that. It's a very, very delicate topic. Sita ji in Ashok Vatika, and Raman is discussing Ram with Sita. What are you talking about? I can't write it like this. It's too delicate, too sensitive topic. But he was gone, aap kar lenge. I know you will be able to do it, and so on. So he went away, leaving that cassette player in my room. I generally sleep at 1:32. I do my writing or reading in the night. I got so frightened that I slept at about 9, out of fear. And suddenly I got up at about 5. It was becoming slightly, there was some light. So I got up, I saw that cassette and cassette player at the table. I said, I'll do one thing. I thought, let me write few lines and then tell him that I tried, but it couldn't happen. It's not that easy. So I sat down to write. And I realized that in next 2 hours, I finished the song. So he came, I recited to him, he liked it very much, and then the song was recorded. Pal pal hai bhari, wo bipta hai aayi. Now this is really, I was surprised at how I could manage. But the real twist comes now. When the music was released, there were some people who were very educated, scholars. They had read Ramcharitmanas, they knew Sanskrit. So they really were deep into this. And one of them told me, an old gentleman, that you have done a marvelous job. The way you have used Ramcharitmanas argument, which Tulsidas ji had written, into a song, that's brilliant. I had no idea. Now, till today, it's a mystery. I come from Lucknow, and in my childhood, I have seen many Ram Leelas. Whether somewhere in my mind it was there in my subconscious that I don't even remember that I heard this. And because out of this tension and fear, my subconscious helped me and gave me all those arguments. Or was it the only logical and decent way of going about it and taking this topic further? So ultimately I found the right way. I have no idea. But it happened. And that, I'll never forget the kind of tension and insecurity I had when I was given this situation. You are in a village where you have no books, no references, nothing. And you did not have Google that time. So I can never forget that experience. I don't know. I have been fortunate enough to be born in a family of writers and poets. My father, my grandfather, my maternal uncle, my paternal uncle, my great grandfather, his wife, my great grandmother, her father, his father, all of them were writers and poets. And not only, closet writers, but their names are mentioned in any um, credible Urdu anthology. So the poetry and writing was all around me when I was growing up. We had all the magazines used to come, literary magazines, to our house because both of them were writers, so they would get that. And I started reading Urdu when I was perhaps 5, and fluently by the time I was 6 or 7. And I started reading serious literature by the time I was 10 or 11. Huge novels, big novels. I started reading at a very young age. Poetry, by the time I was 12, I remember hundreds of couplets. And when I was 15 or 16, thousands of them. Even today, I can recite other people's poetry for a couple of hours at least, if not more. I'm being modest. So I think sooner or later it had to happen. Although I resisted, I started writing poetry at the age when people generally stop writing poetry. I was 29, 30. Because most of the poetry is written in late teen and the 20s when you are a romantic. And that's why perhaps I hardly have any romantic poems in my literary work. I write romantic songs for the film, but that's commissioned work. So it had to happen. Now, whether I've been able to maintain that quality, that caliber, that is not for me to decide, which was in my family. My father, my uncle, they were very, very respected poets. My grandfather was a very respected poet. So that I don't know. That is for others to decide that if I get passing marks or not. But I suppose even when I was young and I was not writing poetry, I knew I could write poetry. So I used to suggest lines to my poet friends, but I had not written it. Because perhaps if you know what is good art, then you get intimidated that whether I'll be able to come somewhere near it. There is a kind of courage that can only be in an ignorant person. Because if you don't know, you are more courageous. Well, it's a strange coincidence that tomorrow I'm going to have a talk at IIC India International Club about the same very topic. And the title is of this conversation is Hindi Urdu Siamese twins. Um, there are no two languages in the world except Hindi Urdu that have the same grammar. If the languages same grammar, you can't separate them. It's not possible. And there must be, if you take an average Hindi dictionary, there will be at least around 6,000, if not more, words that have come from Urdu. If you take a look at Urdu, you cannot make one sentence in Urdu without using Hindi. So, I mean, they are so intertwined and they are so near and they have such common system. It's like Siamese twins who have the same kidney and same liver and same intestines. How would you cut them? It's not possible. People try. I mean, their languages have two uh, categories. All the languages of the world. Languages of the government and establishment and languages of the people. Urdu, Hindi are the languages of people, and that's the only form of Urdu or Hindi that will survive. You cannot impose artificial languages. That's not possible. It has been tried earlier also, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. The fact is that what we speak is Hindustani. We don't speak chaste Hindi, we don't speak chaste Urdu. And if you try to get it done, it won't work. It's not the people's language. तुम कहाँ जा रहे हो? मैं घर जा रहा हूँ. क्या तुम खाना खाओगे? नहीं, मैं पानी पी लूँगा. ये कौन सी लैंग्वेज है? ये हिंदी है कि उर्दू है? अगर आप एक तरफ से लिख देंगे तो ये उर्दू हो जाएगी, एक तरफ से लिख देंगे तो हिंदी हो जाएगी. मगर वो आदमी जो लिखता ही नहीं है, जिसे लिखना ही नहीं आता है, वो जब ये कहता है तो क्या बोल रहा है? वो हिंदी बोल रहा है कि उर्दू बोल रहा है? कुछ भी नहीं मालूम. हमारी ये पिक्चर हिंदी फिल्में हैं, मुझे बाहर मिलते हैं अमेरिका में, इंग्लैंड में, पाकिस्तानी, तो rather grudgingly they give this compliment to me. एक बात तो माननी पड़ेगी, आप लोग की उर्दू फिल्में बहुत अच्छी होती हैं. तो the film which are Hindi film for us, they think it's Urdu. And I understand why there is this misunderstanding. The fact is that till you don't write or you don't make the language indecipherable intentionally, the spoken language is Hindustani. And that is a beautiful combination and amalgamation of Hindi and Urdu. The moment you try to separate them, they become fake. They become unreal. Well, it depends, I mean, the power of words where? Actually, ultimately, it is the power of thought. Words are the bricks, but words are not the building. You make a building with bricks, of course, and if you have ample bricks, you will be able to make a bigger and better building. But bricks are not thoughts, are not house. Words are not thoughts, but you need enough words to construct a thought or communication. You need words. But ultimately, what changes the world are thoughts, not the words. And if you get the right words for the right thought, beautiful, wonderful, that becomes really effective. But only words cannot do that. Ultimately, the content. Word is the form. Thought is the content. Now again, there can be a long discussion. Can you think without words? Again, so it can be egg and chicken. But the fact is that it is the idea. If the idea is fortunate enough to find good words, becomes very effective. You see, it's rather ironic that languages were made for communication. And more often than not, language has become the barrier in communication. But in these walls which languages create unintentionally, I mean, the only window that you can make is translation. And although they say that when you are translating particularly poetry, it is like trying to pour perfume from one bottle to another. However careful you may be, you will lose a lot of fragrance. I'm willing to accept that. But I shudder to think that if there would not have been any translations, I wouldn't have known who is Tolstoy or Balzac or uh, so many writers. I know them because of the translation. So perhaps that's the second substitute. And in India, I think not enough work is done on translating Indian literature of different regions in different languages. We need much more translation than we get today. Thankfully, there was a time when Bengali literature was translated, a lot of Bengali literature was translated in Urdu. And Urdu is my mother tongue. And that is how I came to know about Sharad Babu. I have read all his work, Bankam Chand Chatterjee, Rabindranath Tagore. So their literature and their poetry and their prose, their short stories, their novels reach me through translation, and I developed some understanding. Obviously, I mean, you like Tagore is not cannot translate it, cannot be translated. I have done myself also. I have written translated some of his poetry in Hindustani, simple Hindi Urdu. But I mean, I can see where the magic is getting lost. But that's the only substitute we have. Kuch to jayega, at least some of it will go there. So prose is comparatively easier, but poetry is very dangerous because poetry is not only meaning. The poetry has a kind of aura around it, indefinable aura, and more often than not, that aura gets lost. But anyway, so I think like how many people know who is Bashir, a great writer of Kerala, Malayali. The rest of India doesn't know that. Like, how many people know that some exceptionally good novels are written in Gujarati? Because they have not been translated in other languages. How many people know about Vijay Tendulkar? Except in Maharashtra. I mean, some very developed minds of people who are deeply interested in theatre would know what a great writer. He was a great writer. But people don't know about him, the rest of the India. So I think we need much more translation than we have now.